Hi, it's Dia. Today I'm going to be coloring with a 24 set of Conte pastel pencils. I love pastels, and they're very different, although they look very much like colored pencils. Pastels have a bit of an abrasive in them, especially these Conte pencils. You can get smoother ones, but the Conte ones that I love have a bit of an abrasive. And if you listen when I get quiet in a minute, you'll be able to hear how different they are from colored pencils. Okay, listen. They're a bit scratchy, and they cover a bit more with each stroke. I also find the colors to be incredibly vibrant. I'm coloring some flowers, and I want the inside of these flowers to look like they're glowing, possibly from a sunset. Um, and I find that in the beginning, it looks a little bit like a mess. And unlike colored pencils, the pastels do give off a bit of dust. Now, one of the benefits of the pastel pencils is that you can truly go over other colors, even with lighter colors, and the blending effects are just gorgeous. I'm taking a blending stick or a stump, and I'm going to quickly blend all the shades together. I'm really not applying that much pressure, and you can see how vibrant the colors are. I'm leaving a bit of a line here, the white space that you see, because it's going to indicate that there's a bend in the shape of the flower petal, and it also gives like a really pretty glossy look. And when I first put the pencils down, they look a bit rough, and that's okay, because with the pastels, blending is super easy, and I'll show you in a minute. Now, getting back to white space for a second, don't feel like you have to fill every inch of every space on your pictures. White space is just as important as colored space. I'm going to leave a bit of white space over here too to indicate another reflection or glossy look to the leaf. Now right now there's a lot of dust from where I use the pencils, and I'm going to go right over the top of it with this blending stick. Now remember, oh, I'm taking the paper away, and I lightly blew on the paper while it was sort of tilted to the floor because I didn't want there to be too much dust remnants on the paper, and it sort of dissipates better if you tip it over. So now I'm working on the reflection. It doesn't have to be exactly even, because just like a reflection on a flower that you would be looking at outside, those lines wouldn't necessarily be perfect. I'm adding some details with a sharper red on the inner leaves. I'm using a light touch. Now I'm picking up some of the darker red, and I'm using it on the inner leaves. It gives a really soft, blended look. I'm adding a bit of dimension. I'm going to take a light green pencil first, and start coloring in the stem. And once again, with these pastels, you don't have to be perfect. Now this color is a little bit darker. And I'm adding a bit of dimension. Now this color's darker yet, a little bit darker right where it attaches to the flower and throughout the stem to make it look more realistic. Now I'm taking a lighter shade again and going over the darker ones and using the lighter shade almost as a blender. Adding some dimension to that little leaf with a darker green, and adding a highlight at the edge with a very bright yellow. I started out with a darker orange and then went to a lighter yellow orange for this tiny flower, and then eventually moved to a yellow to give the impression of depth for the inner leaves, because the center of the flower would be a little darker. It gives the illusion of a shadow. Now at first I took a red and then I went to a bit of a darker red at the bottom. Now as you can see there, I left little reflection marks there also. I'm carefully blending around those reflection areas. And taking some of the dust from the darker red and putting it around the top over by the yellow and the oranges. I'm adding some green in the center. And forming the center of the flower. Now there's little indications in there of seeds, and I just took a micron a micron pen, and I darkened them. Now this flower, I'm using darker reds, and I'm even going to incorporate a really light blue and yellow in some of the petals to show some depth and movement in the leaves. I'm also going to be leaving more areas uncolored, and then I'm going to take the tortillon or the stump or the blending stick and move the color around with that. I really do love these pastels, especially these Conte pastels. I can't say enough about them. Um, I do have some other ones, but I always go back to these. Now, as you can see, you can even go over the blue with the yellow, and it moves the pigment enough that you can go right on top. Okay, I do love these pencils, like I said, but the product is harder to store. Um, it's very delicate. It's very easily smeared. It can be ruined very quickly, so you have to be very careful once you have your masterpiece done. Put it in a frame or put it somewhere very safe. I wouldn't just keep it in a book. Plus, your pictures deserve to be out there. They're so nice. Let everyone see them. Doing some blending and just moving around the color that's already down from the pencil. Another thing I like about these pencils is that they don't get muddy. They don't really change when you blend them, and you don't really even need any mineral spirits to make them look softer. They can be made to look very soft and delicate without losing the intensity of the color. And you can really see their yellows. Sometimes with colored pencils, um, the lighter shades sort of get lost. These do not. They're bright and vibrant. I added a little crease there. I just thought it needed some dimension, a little bit of a flourish. You can see the little seeds at the center of this flower too. I'm going to go carefully around with the red. Although I don't have to be perfect here. And I'm going to make a little design in the center that you would normally see um, in the middle of a real poppy. And then around that I'm going to take the orange and add some dimension. Blend that out to the flower petals. Now you can see I'm just filling in areas with the colors that were already on the flowers. Now I'm making those seeds more visible. And taking a regular Staedtler drawing pencil, this one happens to be 2H, and adding some uh, shadows and shading around those details in the center that I drew a couple minutes ago. Sorry, I went off the paper there for a minute. I decided to start with the lighter color, the bright yellow on the highlight side. You can see it goes on pretty quickly. Then I'm going to take a spring green, fill in the other side. And then from there I'm going to take a darker green and add some dimension. And that's darker yet. Now this is part one, and I'm going to do a part two and possibly a part three. It depends on how long it's going to take to finish the picture. But next one I'll be doing some more flowers, and then of course some of the leaves, and then we'll move on to the bird, and of course eventually the background. And a lot of people lament that the background can be the hardest part. Um, I'll give you a few different ideas. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.